Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how I made this flower backdrop that I've used in all of my podcast videos. I've gotten a lot of good questions about this. All of this has been made from scrap yarn, either acrylic or polyester, really whatever I had on hand, with two colors for each flower. So the inside is one color and on the outside is another color. And then after I made each flower, I stitched them together on the back. What I really like about this project is that you can make it along and along. You don't have to do it all at once because it's designed to be pretty random with lots and lots of colors. So today I'm going to show you how I made these. I've got two colors that I'm going to use to make my little flowers today, my crochet hook and my scissors. So let's get started. For this flower, I have decided that I'm going to use this pretty kind of toffee caramel color for the inside and the burgundy color for the outside. These are both colors that were left over from my temperature blanket, which seems like it is the gift that keeps on giving with scraps. So for me, as I get started, I always start with a knot at the end of my yarn. That way, when I make the slip knot to start my first stitch, that slip knot is not going anywhere. This varies crocheter by crocheter on the technique that you want to use. So for the inside of these flowers, we're going to be using double crochet. So I'm going to start by chaining 3 stitches, and then I'm going to be going into the first stitch that I crocheted with a double crochet 12 times. So I'm going to yarn over, go into that first stitch, pull up a loop. Now I have 3 on my hook, yarn over, pull that through 2 loops, yarn over and pull it through the last. And I'm going to do that double crochet 12 times total. I got the height to create the inside of the stitch from those first 2 chains that I did. Remember that we chained 3 to begin with. The first stitch is what I'm using to do all my stitches into, and then those other 2 gave us the height for our double crochet. So I'm just double crocheting around until I have crocheted 12, and I'll count those here in just a second. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so I need 5 more. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now I've done all the way around into that first stitch and back to where I started. I'm going to be slip stitching into this first stitch. So I'm going to go in through the top, making sure that I have both loops there, pulling up a loop and then pulling it through the first one. I've now closed the circle that is the middle of my flower. Now I'm going to go around in all of these stitches again, this time single crocheting into each stitch twice. So I'm going to chain 1 into this first stitch. I'm going to single crochet twice. Now let me do that single crochet a little bit slower so you can see what I did. I have a loop on my hook. I'm going to go into my fabric, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull up through both. And I'm going to do this all the way around my center of the flower. For these flowers, I used a yarn weight 4, which is just a worsted weight yarn. This is what most yarn is, especially if you're crochet. If you went to your local craft store or even Walmart, places like that, most of what you're going to see is worsted weight yarn, which is a level 4, and it's really good for blankets, home decor items, even sweaters. It's just a good kind of a workhorse yarn. You could do this pattern in a smaller weight yarn if you would like, if you wanted to do a little bit more delicate flowers, or if you just happen to have a lot of sock weight or fingering weight yarn around, you could totally do the same pattern. You would just go down in your stitch size. So for this one, I am using a size J hook, which is a 6mm with a weight 4 yarn. All right, so I've gone all the way around my double crochets. I've single crocheted into each of these twice, and I'm back to where I started. So I'm going to go back into my first stitch. I'm going to slip stitch into it the same way that we did for our double crochet. I've now finished the center of my flower. So I'm going to take my scissors, cut off a little bit, tie a knot, and get ready to add the second color. Now you might have noticed that this took very little yarn. I started with a small ball of yarn. I have a slightly smaller ball of yarn now. So you can use a lot of scraps this way. I will say that the yarn that we're going to use for the outside of the flowers, you will need more of, because we're going to be using a bobble stitch. So I've cut my yarn. I've left a little bit of a tail right there, as you can see, but I'm going to be crocheting over it and you're not even going to see it. Some people would choose to tie the new yarn to the old yarn. Totally personal preference. I like this way because if for whatever reason my flower unraveled, it would stop right here because it's not attached to anything else. So I am going to now add my second color. So I'm going to start a little bit over, probably about right here. The first thing that you are going to do with your second color is you're going to be doing a single crochet. So I have inserted my hook where I want my color to start, gone through both of the top right there. I'm going to pull this yarn through one, chain one, and then I'm just going to kind of crochet right over the top of it so it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to do one single crochet into that first stitch. For these flowers, you're going to be alternating a single crochet with a bobble stitch. Now there are a lot of stitches that look very similar that are just done a little bit differently. For this, I chose to do a bobble stitch, which is a little different than a puff, which is a little bit different than a popcorn stitch, but I'll go slow so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So for the bobble stitch, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to yarn over, go into my next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull it through the first two loops. It's like you were doing a double crochet, but you're just not finishing it. And I'm going to do that 4 times before I pull the yarn through all of them. So I'm going to yarn over, go back in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull over those 2. Now I've got the first loop on my hook right here, and then 2 of my double crochets that I haven't finished yet. I'm going to do 2 more, yarn over, go into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the next 2, and now I've got 1 more that I'm going to do. So I'm going to yarn over, go into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. So now on my hook, you can see that I have 5 loops total. So I'm going to yarn over, pull it through the first 4, and then yarn over and pull it through the last 2. This is what gives the bobble stitch that texture. It makes it push out a little bit more because you're doing a lot of stitches right there in one. And since this alternates, the next stitch that I have is a single crochet. And I'm just going to do that all the way around my circle, alternating between my bobble stitches and my single crochets. I also, you might be noticing that as I am finishing the last pull through on my bobble stitches, I'm kind of using my finger to push it forward. That's just so that I can make sure that all of them are pushing the same way, pushing forward instead of pushing back. All right, I'm going to keep going all the way around. You can start to see the flower take shape a little bit now. And what I like about this is that you can do each flower pretty quickly. These would also be really cute as bookmarks, as like a table runner would be really pretty in this. Obviously I'm partial to the blanket idea. These would also be really cute appliqued onto like a little cardigan or a bag or anything really. What is also important, as we did our first or our only round of single crochet, is that doing 2 single crochet into each stitch gave us the room to do these bobble stitches. As they're going around, we're not having them awkwardly like bend backwards or bend to the side, because we gave ourselves some extra stitches on that single crochet row. Now, if you are a tight crocheter, or if you're still trying to work out your tension, I suggest that as you do your bobble stitches, the ones that are the little poofy stitches, that you try to crochet a little bit more loosely so that you can see what's going on, because it can be easy to get lost in something that is several stitches in one. This stitch is one of my favorites, but it can also be a bit of a yarn hog because it uses so much yarn. So I usually only use it in like accents or as an edge of some sort. I've also done coasters with a little bobble stitch border, which is nice because it just kind of keeps oversized mugs and glasses in place a little bit better. And remembering to do the single crochets in between your bobble stitches is also very important, because it gives them just a little bit of space between each one. That way you can see the individual bobbles instead of it being super crowded. Now it looks like I've only got a couple more left. So I've got this one, then maybe one more bobble one. Yep, one more bobble. This is my last one. Alrighty, so as I am finishing up my flower, look how cute that is. It kind of looks like a little bit of an autumn Gerber daisy or something. I am going to slip stitch into my single crochet right here. Kind of hard to see, but it's right there. And then I'm going to leave a tail to fasten it into my next, to my other flower stitches. So go ahead, cut myself a little bit of the tail, and then slip stitch right there into that stitch. Now that I've slip stitched, you could pull the yarn through here. I always go one more yarn over and pull it through just so that I make sure that it is secure and that it's not going anywhere. See how easy it was to make that little flower? Now I'm going to go back to my, put that right there, to my massive blanket and pick a spot where I think that will go really well. Yeah, so I have my blanket right here. I have a spot right here that is just aching for a little flower. So I'm gonna flip it over to the back. And the way that I've attached these is pretty haphazard. There are probably more organized ways to do this, but as I do with this, each flower is going to be attached to 6 other flowers. So for this one, I have 3 that are already ready for it to be attached to. So I'm going to be attaching it here, here, and here. And I'm just doing that with a simple knot. The great thing about using this as either a rug or a wall hanging or anything like that is that nobody is ever going to see the back. So it's okay, as you can see, that my back has a lot of very colorful ties because no one is ever going to see the back. So I've attached it there. I'm going to grab, I'm going to attach it right here. I'm just going through both flowers at a stitch where they kind of meet up. Again, this is very haphazard and random, so there's not a, it's not a super sophisticated way to attach them. Just making sure that that knot is good and tight, clipping away any excess. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more yarn to attach it one more spot. What has also been fun about this is seeing how the yarn preferences that I have bought has changed. Because some of this is a lot rougher of yarn than what I typically use now. That's all part of the journey. All right. Clip away the excess. And just like that, guys, I have made an addition to my flower blanket. Ta-da! If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I will see you here next time. Bye.